media.
But don't give play-by-play of your checker out.
Oh. I'll give you play-by-play or something.
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Thanks for
What's happening, guys?
hanging out on
Hey, look,
Tuesday.
I
Nats
just-
are up
I-
7-0.
I just got my notification.
Did you?
No spoiler alerts. It's not
How
spoiled.
about that?
It's just awesome.
We're good.
All right, here we go.
We got
I'm
audio.
going to skip the survey. I'm sorry.
We got audio.
Yeah, we do.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, that's what we said. We good.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. We appreciate your time as always, especially on this championship Tuesday night. With our Washington Nationals up 7-0 in the top of the third inning as Patrick Corbin is mowing them down. We will be mowing them down on this week's WCAC Spectacular. On behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. He's Tim Strachan.
Man, it was an awesome opening weekend for the WCAC. Great games to talk about. Can't wait till we get to it, man.
He's Kevin Riga.
It's the best time of year if you're a DC sports junkie like we all are, sitting here watching our Nats do work. Don't come to town with your limp arm pitchers. Come on, boys. This is the Nats we're talking
They're
about.
just throwing up Dakota Hudson's at us in
and,
Game
and,
4.
and we're here to discuss the WCAC and how good these boys did this weekend
Correct.
as well.
Matt the Real Deal Seal.
Got a first inning touchdown.
Bang.
We saw a few touchdowns on Saturday, didn't we?
We sure did.
Sick.
We will get to the first WCAC game of the week for First Amendment Sports, but we thought we'd cover some ground before we got to some of the games that were covered on Saturday. Let's start elsewhere, as we never do. Let's start elsewhere in the WCAC to give some guys a little bit of love.
We had some rivalry matchups this past weekend. Bishop Ireton traveled over to Paul VI.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
It was a tough one. It was a battle back and forth. PVI
Nice
pulled it
scoring
out,
affair.
35-28.
Wow.
So Ireton's got some offense.
A lot of
They've got
touchdowns
some
in the league
firepower over
will be a
there.
There is a
theme.
lot of,
Hey,
there is a
Paul,
lot
this-
of offense over there on that side.
I mean, seriously, that's 9 touchdowns in that game. And look, Paul VI and Ireton's been putting points up all over the place. And Paul VI ain't messing around. Paul VI had a 2-touchdown lead a majority of the game, Seal. It was like they were in control. Ireton wouldn't go away. Chip Armstrong's a heck of a coach. He's not going down like that. And Paul VI in their victory lap getting
Yep.
a big W to end this season.
That's right.
We'll end it outside of Loudoun
That's
County.
right.
True.
That's right.
True. Which they've put some pictures up on their social media. If you haven't seen them, check them out. The new facility, Paul VI, looks
Is there,
beautiful.
is there any of us?
Not yet, but we'll be there.
That's
we'll be
probably
there,
a
I'm sure.
mistake.
Open invitation.
We'll send some stills.
St. Mary's Riken.
Yep. How'd they do?
They hosted O'Connell. I think it was homecoming down in Hawaii.
And a rematch
wow.
of
And a
the
rematch
championship
of the
game we
championship
covered not
game.
so long ago.
And
No
but-
Jamal Banks.
Virtually a repeat score, 49-0
Okay.
for the home team down there in Hawaii. Carroll,
Aloha, Hawaii.
Carroll had a double bye.
Double bye.
Double
Nice
bye is a
move.
tough one.
You know I love it.
Smart.
Going
It's-
into
it's-
league play, though, the boys will be healthy.
It's like playing 2 football seasons.
It's
Basically,
literally
that's
the
what it comes
greatest
down
thing
to.
I've ever
Act
heard
one?
of in high school sports. The double bye. Like how hard those guys work in the dog days of summer with
Yeah.
the sun beating down, and all of a sudden they get 2 fall weekends to
It's a hell of a
themselves.
way to get into
Listen,
conference
this
play,
is
though.
DC. The Kennedy
Awesome.
Center has intermission. Why can't Archbishop Carroll have double intermission?
Makes sense
You
to
get
me.
some recruiting visits in and coaches.
I salute you, Coach
Yeah.
Harris,
Yeah, I do
and your
too.
whole athletic department.
Keep all the wives happy.
Oh,
keep all
yeah.
the parents happy.
You know how much quality time got spent the last 2
Yeah,
weeks
you know
in
what? At
Carolyn?
this point in
A
the season,
lot.
a wife's coach's wife, I can imagine how the double bye would definitely get him some
Hero.
points.
dinner in
Hero.
the Kennedy Center at the
you
same
go.
time.
It's
I mean, it
helpful
seems
on
all
the
tied
schedule
in
for
together,
sure.
Coach.
Frees up Saturday night.
Now
Nice.
we're getting him killed.
Well, we are.
Sorry, Coach.
You're back on the
Sorry
show.
about that.
Well, we're proud of you, Coach. So,
No doubt about it.
but yeah, man, Carroll gets that double bye, and O'Connell at 49-0. They're 1-5. Listen, they're not going to be hanging around there at the end. But right now, guys, I'm starting to smell a little bit of a St. Mary's Riken Carroll flavor. We'll see. I know
On
it's
that first
early. I'm
championship,
just
yeah,
saying.
early.
I want to be the first one to throw it out there that says this is quite a possibility, and what an interesting
be fun.
possibility it would be.
Well, it does not get any easier for O'Connell this week. They go home. However, Carroll travels over to play the Knights. So that'll be a good one over there on
Very
Saturday.
well rested. Unleash the lion.
If they're as calm as you are announcing their game, the upcoming game, they should be just fine.
That's right. It doesn't get any easier for Ireton either. They go over and play St. Mary's Riken. They take the long trip down to Hawaii.
Okay.
All the 6th on bye this week.
It's big. There's a lot of weather coming. I don't
This
know
weekend
what
might
coast
be a
they're
little
on, but I
dicey.
mean, there's like a nor'easter coming.
Yeah.
You might need to shelter in place and halftime of that game.
So we're gonna find
Is
out
there really weather coming?
Well, usually.
this time of year.
I don't want any weather coming.
The weather's coming. It's going to hit New England. It's going to hit north of Philadelphia, but it's going to be serious. Nor'easter.
New England and north of Philadelphia.
Possible bomb cyclone. Our first possible bomb cyclone of the year. No more weather talk, I promise.
All right.
That's a true fact.
You can't just throw bomb cyclone out
Thanks,
there
Doug
and be like,
Cameron.
He
okay,
did.
let's move on.
He
It's
did.
happening.
He flung a bomb cyclone right at you.
You heard
Speaking
it right.
of a cyclone,
Okay,
you mind if I hit
I'm
this?
going to
Let's
go on
let's
the
bring 'em
Twitter
on.
machine in a minute and figure out
Get
what
ready
that
for
is.
The
this
first
one.
game that we will cover of the week. Let's see what it is. Let's turn
Off
Turn
a
Billy
Thriller.
Idol down.
Off of a Thriller. Does he come in with Thriller?
Up where we belong, where the purple eagles cry on Friday night, 5 overtime.
That was amazing.
That was nice.
And another original.
It is each week.
I
best
know.
part.
I do. We got to get the soundtrack to our own podcast.
We do have to get the soundtrack to our own podcast. It probably already exists out there. Someone's probably already making a lot of money
Tim
on
already
it.
knows that Paul McCartney got messed over by Michael Jackson, who bought all the rights to all the Beatles albums. I am certain he's already undercut this.
I can tell you one person who definitely will not be buying that album. And that would be my wife. So,
I would have sworn you were going to
This
say
is
Jeff
why you
Clay.
have,
Right.
this is why you always
Jeff
have to
Clay
do
was
this
my
call.
final answer.
You have to do this call in the garage every week,
and
isn't
Jeff
it?
was second. Yeah, definitely.
All right, so
Certainly
Tim,
wouldn't buy that.
we're going to start with, even though it wasn't the WCAC game of the week, we're going to still start with what was a very, very amazing game in terms of result and in terms of, good counsel fans. Take us through, not play by play, since there were only 2 really good plays throughout the 4 quarters of the actual game, but what in
Right.
God's name did that game turn into after the final buzzer?
Well, I mean, it was 7-7 in the first quarter, as you know, and I just want to call a couple guys out because
Okay.
there were some cool plays out there, and Gonzaga on their first possession went right down the field, and basically scored from the 10-yard line, called a hitch. The kid caught it on the 1 and just basically stretched in. So that was quick work there. But then Good Counsel came back 6 plays later and ran a jet sweep pass to the former starting quarterback Trace Campbell. And he flipped it up to Miles Cross, number 10, who had slipped behind everyone on the defense. So it was exciting very quickly early. And then, as you know, it was 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. It was 7-7 at the end of regulation. Going into overtime, Good Counsel changed some things up.
Yeah.
And they came out with Good Counsel has 3 very good backs. They've got Savion Wilkerson, number 3. Everybody knows about him. They have number 26, Lee J. Hatcher, and they have number 15, Sean Aaron. And I was
guy's a
listening to the
stud.
show last week, and
He's
I
really
just said
good.
his
Fun
name
to
last
watch.
week. I said Sean Ryan. He's Sean Aaron, number 15, and he is a beast. And they went with the split back set in overtime. And so they had 2 of those guys on the field at all times. They took the other fullback out. And Gonzaga did not have an answer for it. So
They ran some old
every
school
time-
crossbuck, Tim. I don't want to cut you off, but they were running a little misdirection scissors like situation back from the old school, and it did throw Gonzaga off. It was interesting.
No, they ran that, and they were running lead out of split backs too. And I saw my man Sean Aaron decleat one of Gonzaga's D linemen on one of their first plays and took him right off his feet. So I mean, they have 3 very good backs. They got all of them on the field, and every one of Good Counsel's backs scored in overtime. Savion had 2, Sean Aaron had 1, Lee J had 1, Lee J Hatcher, and the quarterback Chase Williams had 1 on a QB keeper on a zone read. On the other side of the ball, Gonzaga was right there moving along, but they had one guy who was doing all their scoring, and I have to say, after watching that game, he's one of the most impressive football players I've ever seen. Of course, I'm talking about Caleb Williams.
Yep.
I think that he is the best athlete on the field at all times. And I'm going to say this, I think he's the best athlete in the league. I have never seen feet like this on a kid before. He escapes out of everything. The cuts that he makes at the angles that he makes them for his size, for not his size,
Yep.
is tremendous. Every
That's
time
fun.
you think he's going down, he's not. He keeps his feet and he scores. Or he runs another 10 yards and then just steps out of bounds at his leisure. So this dude is smooth. We know how he can throw the football. I can only imagine what he looks like on a dance floor because the guy has great feet.
Well, with you singing on that microphone, we can put the whole band together, brother.
Come on.
Hey, but
That's a deal.
Hey,
Dude,
and
where do I sign?
let me tell you this. How about this? Tim, I charted the game. We coached together back in the day. You know, I've got some ADD going on with a pen and pad. But, you know, when you take a peek at charting it afterwards, you look at it from every different angle. How about Caleb Williams had, and I might be off here. This is not official stats. This is me eyeballing it, going through, watching tape. 32 rushes. 32
That's
rushes
amazing.
for 194 yards and 4 TDs. All 4 TDs in overtime, and the team lost in overtime,
Yes.
which is shocking to me. You know, there's a bunch of different stats that stood out. You know, last year he got to throw the ball all over the field, and that was a dynamic pass offense. By this time last year, they had 10 scores from 50 yards or out. We talked about St. John's and Gonzaga being the high-profile, prolific team with that amount of firepower to score from so far out. Caleb was 7 for 20 for 65 yards. 35 of that was right before halftime. He chucked it up to the tight end, Hail Mary style. The guy caught it, but the time had run out. You know, so the passing game wasn't really clicking. And then Good Counsel's offense, Tim, 66 first half yards, 78 second half yards. That's worrisome to me, taking a look at what they were trying to do in that first half. And Savion Wilkerson comes alive, as both teams did, when they had 115 yards in the overtime. It was just crazy to me. And the final stat that jumped out at me, and I'm sure you took note of, 82 plays for Gonzaga, 52 for Good Counsel.
Good Lord.
I can't even imagine that I watched that game and didn't notice that the first way through. Yeah. But what?
Well, the game went back and forth a lot, you know, in the first quarter, and there were turnovers and there were defensive guys making big plays on both sides of the ball, and it was just an amazing game. But again, you know, for Gonzaga, they found something on that weak side of the defense against Good Counsel in overtime, and Caleb kept hitting that.
You mean
just picking up 15 and then, you know, strolling into the end zone?
Fake jet sweep, run left.
That was the play.
Yeah.
Again, Good Counsel's defense is fantastic, but they found a little hole right there, and Gonzaga was able to exploit.
All right, so Tim, I think Good Counsel people thought they were going to win, and they were rewarded for thinking that. Gonzaga people thought they were going to win. I think Gonzaga was probably the favorite in a lot of people's minds. In your mind, you know, the WCAC landscape has changed after that result for sure. One thing I think about is Gonzaga lost some of these games last year, so I'm not, you know, that's probably a team that can afford maybe to not be on their game in the first week of WCAC play. But I was impressed by Good Counsel's ability to beat a team that I really thought was a kind of a dominant in the trenches team. I mean, that was what we thought Gonzaga was going to do, and it didn't look like they were able to really protect Caleb, you know, as well as we thought they were going to.
I was shocked. I mean, this goes to show what we know, right?
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be, you know,
we could on Good
more
Counsel,
passing.
obviously.
I thought both of them played a hard-nosed, old-school, smack-you-in-the-mouth football game, which was fun to watch if that's what you like. But the ground raid offense for Gonzaga was something I wasn't quite ready to see. 35 times, even if that's even remotely
32,
close.
and
32 times.
I'm right about that.
I'll give you it.
That-
I'll give you that.
I mean,
I'm
sure.
right about the carries.
Sounds right.
He's good, but you can't do that to your quarterback.
27 for Malcolm Terry for 100 yards. That's
Wow.
59 carries between two guys. Only 3 other carries on the day. Aaron Turner got 3 jet sweeps.
And that's what that line does for them.
Yep.
That line, that all 5 of them Division I commits. I mean, that's what that does. It was just
You have to
wasn't
play that
expecting-
That's
long,
certainly
too.
impressive, man. But I'll tell you what,
It wasn't a ton of yards they got, though.
I'll put Caleb Williams behind me and Kevin blocking for him, and you know he's going to run for 150. I mean, he's awesome. And
170.
they have an impressive offensive line, but without him, you know they're going to struggle. They would struggle on offense, obviously.
He was
He's
heroic. He was dynamic. He was
Oh, and that
outstanding.
overtime? That was unbelievable.
He's different, man.
Yeah.
He's different.
No, he is.
He's going to need someone to step up. He's going to need some weapons out there. And he's got 2 big tight ends. They try to get involved early. They try to get Aaron Turner involved early. But Good Counsel's got some great D-backs, man. They got 11 guys going to play college football to go to school for free on the defensive side of the ball. That's no joke. But
across the board. I mean, their defensive line, linebackers, and defensive backs. You know, they have big time playmakers all over the place there, and I don't think that Gonzaga had seen a defense like that. And I said that before the game going in, and I think that rang true. I was the only one that picked Good Counsel to win. So I have to bring that
up.
That's
true. But I will tell you this: they still got 373 yards on the day and put up some serious points. I mean, it was although if you just keep in mind what regulation was all about, I think there was 70 some rushes and 20 some passes. So we took it back to the old school
heavyweight bout. But the one guy who did impress me, who I think needs a lot more shine on him, is Savion Wilker. The way that he had a couple of runs in those overtimes. Whew.
21 for 95, a 25-yard screen, and he's a blur. And he's a blur.
Would not be denied.
Yeah, it was impressive.
I don't know if those guys want to tackle him at that point. He must have looked crazed.
Well, Tim, I'll tell you what. We're going to get you out of here. We're going to transition to the First Amendment sports game we did last week, but we know there's a big one coming up for Good Counsel on Friday night against the Cadets. Give us a prediction.
Well, Good Counsel is exactly where they were last year, starting off league play 1-0 against Gonzaga. And we know how last year turned out. So they certainly have a lot of big games coming up, within the league. This week is no different. This is the big game. And for me, as a Good Counsel player, and I'm sure Kevin would attest to this, that was always a big game for us. That was a big rivalry game anytime we played St. John's. So this game is extra special because of, their national standing and, of course, the situation that we are in right now. It's just going to be a fantastic matchup Friday night. And I've got Good Counsel 28, St. John's 21. The Falcons are going to win. They're going to collect on some turnovers from St. John's. They're going to capitalize. Their defense is going to score 1 or 2. And I think they're going to win Friday night.
All right. Well, hey, we will.
He didn't sound as confident in that prediction as he had in recent.
It's one of those.
That's a bold prediction when you got the people in your family listening in on there, Tim.
Hey, no, predictions are. Hey, we were 0 for 4 last week on this side of the mic.
Thanksgiving, you might be at the kids' table.
Hey, Tim, we appreciate you, man. We look forward to talking to you about this game.
I just go right there. I report there.
No matter what the score is. One more score. Let's hear it.
I think. DeMatha 35, Gonzaga 28. I think it's going to be a double punch to Gonzaga.
You're just looking to get invited to all kinds of Gonzaga parties this year, aren't you? Mr. Popular on I Street.
Absolutely.
Hey, no matter what the score is, you're coming back next Tuesday, okay?
I'm back, man. I'm looking forward to it, guys. Friday night, Falcons take flight. See you.
Peace. All right, well, he's... again, he's not going to be on a whole lot of invitation and Christmas card lists in purple people, but Tim Reddy is our Good Counsel super fan. We did cover a game this Saturday, the First Amendment Sports WCAC Game of the Week, live from Bishop McNamara, where they hosted the St. John's Cadets. St. John's, spoiler alert, St. John's did what St. John's was supposed to do, as far as what everyone kind of expected from, that roster. I think... On the field, I was impressed with some players, and we'll talk about that. But off the field, I want to say thank you. Our first chance to cover the WCAC versus the WCAC this season. We did so in Forestville. Thank you so much, Dr. Clark,
you guys. That was
Sandy Romano, the McDuffie family who fed us, Ken Harris.
Ken Harris, don't forget.
Checked it out. Keith Veeney, Asim Penny, all you guys joining us on the broadcast to help make it a fun day in the WCAC. And, obviously, a good day. Homecoming at Bishop McNamara. I know.
It was an awesome atmosphere.
Such a great,
it was
great environment.
It was cool.
Despite the result of the game, they were there the whole time. They were in the game the whole time. It was a party going on.
Everybody was having fun.
And it was a lot of fun to be a part of.
The atmosphere was absolutely created by the people of McNamara. Yes. The people of McNamara that embraced us, that made us feel like we were not just right at home. They were ridiculous. I'm telling you, the outward love that we received, the way the people treated us. I can't. When your parents raise you right, you want to say thank you a million times. I like to think mine did, and in most respects, I act like it, and I hope I did that day because I really felt like we were right at home. We were like amongst our people, and we were. Mm-hmm. And we were amongst people that love us, and we love them. And man, I can't say thanks enough. That tart that Ken and I determined was not pumpkin pie.
Sweet potato pumpkin thing.
Sweet potato tarts.
There was
pumpkin in it.
The baddest fish sandwich in all the land.
Fish sandwich.
It was
sold out too.
Second quarter.
That's right.
But no, it was great experience on the field. Obviously, it was lopsided.
Yep.
St. John's got back on track, I think, mentally. I think they needed a game where they kind of, regain their confidence, having played such a tough schedule, playing it well, mind you, even though they were on the losing end of 4 of them. I think they kind of needed that, as you said, Ken, one of the keys of the game, kind of get their swag back. I think, they needed a game to get their swag back, and they got it. But as you said too, Ken, there were some performances on the other side of the ball that were great.
And before we do that, I wanted to relay one awesome story.
Really well done.
I was excited about it. I had a chance to talk to the athletic director of St. John's, Brian Griffin, afterwards. And I think the thing, because he knew he was talking to a McNamara guy, and he was, in this being super respectful, moment, which we always are. And I was happy for him and for all St. John's people that day. But he recalled a time when St. John's scheduled DeMatha for their homecoming, and knew that it wasn't a sign of disrespect whatsoever. I think DeMatha won 40-0. It was like 7 or 8 years ago or something like that. I forget which year it was. And he said, it was a reminder to the program what they wanted to do, where they wanted to be, and what it was going to take to get there. And so I love, McNamara wants to compete with these programs and these schools. Coach Keanu Malloy is bringing along a roster full of kids who he hopes can, take McNamara to that level. And I love, you schedule the biggest, baddest guy on the block for homecoming, and everyone gets to see. I think it was a good exhibition of WCAC-ness, and I think McNamara gives McNamara something really to aim for. And and everybody in the McNamara community watching, saying, listen, we got our butts beat by a really good team, and that's who we want to be. That's who we want to be able to compete against, and that's why I love it.
And what reminds me of that day, because how could I forget, as a fan in the stands, DeMatha was the bar that was set. St. John's had just started off on their journey to get to the top of the WCAC and get to a point where they were, and it was 33-0 with 1 minute and 40 seconds left. And Elijah onside kicked, recovered, went down and scored. It was never forgotten at St. John's, and it didn't. Sure. It still took them a while to get back, but that was a moment in time that was encapsulated in the St. John's rise to the top 2 years ago, and it was something that those kids that were there that day on recruiting trips never, ever forgot. And a lot of them that stayed and signed with St. John's used that. And listen, there's a lot of gamesmanship out there. I'm not pointing fingers here. This is old school. There's reasons for stuff like that to happen. Yep. You're gonna have to convince me that it was all right, but I'm sure T, with his lawyerly ability, will be able to convince us all. But hey, it was a day when everyone kind of said, all right, that's where we need to get, so we don't get onside kicked on anymore.
Yep.
And a team like McNamara lining up with that 290-pound offensive line and a bunch of kids out there, that team was a world of different than the team we covered last year, that Gonzaga McNamara game that we covered. Physically, maturity-wise, you see a guy like Quinn Osborne coming up to say hello to Ken afterwards and give his best for First Amendment sports. And, this ain't embarrassing, because I wanted to cry with him. But that guy was fully teared up, could not speak, could not get the words out. And it showed right there how much it meant to him, and I was so proud of that.
Oh, yeah.
Because in this day and age, man, I cried after every loss. And it wasn't because I was sad because we lost. It was because when you give everything you got,
that's all that's left.
And you're the leader of your team, and your team didn't win, you keep it all in. You keep it all on your shoulders. It's not about, I'm sad because I'm spoiled. No. You saw that guy out there.
Oh, yeah.
He was trying to give everyone the business and lead his team and be the toughest guy in the field, and he did a hell of a job of doing it.
Echo of the whistle, Quinn Osborne, Torrin Brown, and the linebackers. On the St. John's side,
Torrin Brown had a fantastic day. I thought
he did.
He's somebody who popped out to me. He showed that he was a football player. Womack,
Kenny,
we talked about him a lot during the game. He's an amazing athlete that we get to watch move on to Howard and play both.
So cool, man. I love it.
It is cool. So, hats off to a lot of those guys into that program. To Kiata and
Vini was trying to take him out of the game in the fourth quarter.
Marvin Brown, I know over there, my DeMatha boy over there on staff. Good luck to you guys going forward. And again, just thank you for the hospitality. It was great.
Well, while we're doing that, let me just get on some of these St. John's guys real quick.
That's what I was going to say.
Because
the big three.
Listen,
trio.
Just let's talk about what these guys did. The big three was huge, but the game started off with Jamar Curtis. I mean, he is pure electricicity.
14 seconds.
And as soon as that game got plugged in, he was gone. It was like the vibrating game that we got. There was the football guys everywhere, and one of them caught that little thing and was gone. Like the other ones were like, ah. I mean, That kid is so explosive, it's ridiculous. And he's been banged up, in and out. And, hey, when you're 140 pounds playing that schedule, you get some nicks and bumps and bruises. And to come out there and take that first and set the tone for his team to get back on the winning end, I thought that was magnificent. Colby McDonald, I think it was a 98-yard scamper.
I called it 98. Some other people called it 95. Either way, it was it was all
it had a 9
the length of the field.
Yeah, it's all temperature driven. You know what it was, Ken? It was 98 with a slight breeze.
It was,
and that breeze was made by number 3 coming by the First Amendment tent. Because good lordy, like T said during the live broadcast, that St. John's line opened up a hole, and when he hit it, there was no turning back. He picked up another one late in the game to give himself 2 on the day. We all saw what Baby Bus does at the goal line. I mean, Ironhead, what about that thingy? Brute Finesse is a beast, and he is such a weapon on all parts of the field. But certainly, when you line up and say, here I come, stop it, that's old school. And what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do?
Yep.
Rakim Jarrett turned just a simple little hitch into just a Barishnikov-esque dance routine. He was midair on slow motion. Excellent job by our cameraman, peeking over his shoulder.
That was amazing.
From the wrong side of the throw to see how much room he had to gather and cut. And I thought to myself, to be that athletic for one moment in time. Yeah. Just give me one chance to be that far ahead of the game athletically.
And if Stefan heard me say this, he'd probably have a lot of words for me, but he reminds me of a Stefan Diggs in his craftiness. Like he gets doubled. He does not get a whole lot of opportunities because everybody's keying on him. However, the little opportunities that he gets, he makes it almost effortless in many respects. Just the little things he does. I think he's way more athletic, faster, more built than Stefan was, especially at this age. But just the craftiness of the way that they play is very similar.
Well, I must have said the name Arturo Maddox 100 times, and watching him fly around on defense,
amazing.
He stood out. 52 was everywhere. But, hey, Bryce Butler, the young tight end, the prospect with the Kansas offer, the Vanderbilt offer, he's been out there. He looks the role. He had his coming out party. We mentioned it. 3 separate catches. The catch radius on that guy is ridiculous. When he caught it and turned it upfield, danced the sidelines, Josh Gary made a smart play, not blocking back, but getting in the way and giving Bryce his first touchdown. Congrats to you, Bryce Butler. First touchdown, well-deserved. You're going to be a heck of an athlete, heck of a player. Man, we had a great time watching him come of age out there on Saturday afternoon.
I thought that everything that St. John's did offensively that they wanted to do for the most part, they were able to execute. They held the ball. I love Coach Kaz taking the timeout, because he wanted to go for it up 21-7 in the first half, but he sent the field goal kicker out. Ultimately, I think 3 or 4 points wasn't going to affect the outcome. And what I like to see is if Daniel Reyes gets a little confidence in a moment against St. John's. Against DeMatha or Gonzaga in the last couple weeks of the season. For a big one or even in the playoffs.
Mr. Reliable, right there.
Yeah, give your kicker a chance to get confident from that distance. Let's transition. We talked a little bit about Good Counsel is going to play St. John's. We talked a little bit about the Gonzaga Good Counsel last week. We got a big one coming up on Saturday. Am I missing anything besides the big one we got?
No, I just want to say Sol Jamaeva, because I haven't said his name yet, and I love him.
He's great.
And he's tough as nails, and you know what? He didn't have
He
to do
crafty.
He didn't have to do too
It's
much.
a St. John's quarterback.
It
thing.
is, and him and I,
problem.
listen, and he'll laugh, and I will too. I made that, told you during the broadcast, I made that same mistake, the same knucklehead riverboat gambling, just coughing it up in front. You got to walk back to the sidelines. The best part is, you're getting it. You just got to take it.
Problem is, you had to also get it not only from your head coach, but also your dad.
Yeah, and what the were you thinking? And I looked at him and I'm like, genetics they're biting you back right now, because I think I learned this from watching you, Dad.
I have to blame it on.
But it's fun for me to remember not just all the highs, but the lows and then how you deal with them. And that no one gave him a hard time. He's the most beloved, respected guy on the team. But hey, I just wanted to say his name because I am a big fan.
He looked very good. And again, a couple of times he was able to use his feet in conjunction with his brain.
Where he's most dangerous, man.
And those two
especially
combined
on
for big plays.
on the plays where he has to create It's not a called play. It's something that he extends a play. He either keeps it or he keeps his head downfield. That's where he's most dangerous.
Quickness through a hole that he sees too. If he sees a hole, his quickness through it is something to. I think it's next level.
He's a real go-getter when he's got that ball in his hand. It's time to make a decision. And you know what I've liked about him this year is we saw him buy time with width to make that throw to Bryce Butler for the touchdown. And that's something that he's been really good at as a senior year. And in the second half of his junior year is not escaping the pocket. It's being elusive within the pocket. And I think that's a progression of his. And that's going to help this team immensely coming down the stretch run.
Well, we will be in our second week of the WCAC Game of the Week series here on First Amendment Sports. And it's going to be a big one. It's going to be the number 1 team in the city, DeMatha, versus number 4 team in the city, Gonzaga.
Last week's number 1 team versus this week's number 1 team. How about that?
We lost Bruce. I mean, it's the rematch of the championship. It's two
that's right.
coaches who
I remember that game.
Who are weren't next door neighbors growing up, but both very quality football minds in the DC area. And also it features two of the best offensive players.
5 stars. We got 10 stars in the backfield.
There's a lot of good ones, but two of the best offensive players that you'll see. Caleb on one side, Marshawn on the
universe.
other.
Two of the best high school football players in the universe.
Bam.
Yeah, DeMatha is going to be coming in with a red hot ground game themselves.
Yep.
With a lot of guys that can carry the ball. Most notably, Marshawn Lloyd, who is one of the best backs I've seen at this level.
Me too.
The move he made in the championship
just
game
stop
last
right
year,
now.
Still can't stop talking about it.
My jockstrap just fell off when you said that.
And
it happens a lot.
He's gonna be fun. He's gonna be a whole lot of handful for this Gonzaga defense to be handling. And
what human being makes that cut?
It's gonna be another. I know, right? It's Ben-Gura, I think, made a similar one, actually just a couple of series later in it as well.
Yeah, but
I said, I wonder what drill they're running, and you said it's called recruiting.
It's called Amen.
Yeah. But this is going to be another heavyweight fight.
Yep.
If it's anything the way that I think Gonzaga played last week, if they stick to that game plan, which is going to be hard, because as good as Caleb is, you cannot run your quarterback 32 times in a game over week after week after week after week. And they're going to have to figure out how to go to the air, because I think that's the only way they're going to have success against this DeMatha D. They're big up front. They're nasty up front. They're going to be bringing it. So if you're going to go with that offense, they're going to pack that box in and force you to throw it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be and I can't wait.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Can't wait.
Man-to-man matchups all across the outside is exactly what's going to happen. And to be fair, T, I wasn't trying to beat the number down into the ground, because we all know, Randy Trivers knows, you can't get away with rushing the guy 32 times in a game. And to be fair, 16 of those rushes happened in overtime. Mm-hmm. And we saw what happened last year in the fourth quarter. And I think it was 24 plays. Caleb had the ball in his hands all 24, whether he was throwing the ball or running the ball. And if you want to rely on someone that's going to take you to the promised land when the game's at crunch time, it is impossible not to keep relying on the same guy that's gotten you there before, that's done it like no sophomore has ever done before.
It was like a Tebow-esque performance by him the other night.
It was.
I mean,
he was heroic.
It was, and it was by. I mean, he put a lot of brute and a lot of finesse in that game himself.
Yeah.
I mean, the way Tim had described how he would run it up the middle and take some hits, but then be able to get on the outside and then just tiptoe out of bounds. Just, kind of casually.
And how good is he at not taking that big monster hit? He just got that that Mr. Fantastic body. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like you hit him low and he lands on it. He's like a cat. I mean, he is so athletic, and it's
they will have to be more multiple though.
Without a doubt, they're going to need someone else to step up to, and I think we'll be talking about that all week.
Are we going to do some predictions here?
It's about to get ugly around here.
About to get
the
ugly.
truth is about to come down onto the poker table. Are you bluffing?
Matt, the real deal seal, lead us off.
Yeah.
Just realize we
17-14.
Ooh.
17-14 who?
Gonzaga.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
So we're doing the Gonzaga game first, because we got to do both games, fellas. We had Tim do one.
He did.
We were way off
Tim did
last
too.
week anyway.
I know,
so
that's why
goes
we have to get
show
back
this
on
is
it.
just for fun.
Oh yeah, I couldn't.
And by the way, we don't know a damn thing.
We don't know anything.
We love watching these kids, so don't get mad at us. Fan
Yeah,
bases,
right.
don't use us as locker room fodder. I mean, if you have to, you have to. But do it, and it says underneath it, "These idiots said," and we will approve it
These guys know
as
nothing.
idiots. Yes.
Maddie, do the other game too. So 17-14 Gonzaga.
17-14 Gonzaga. Let's go 17-14 St. John's.
You original thinking fool.
do
How
it.
about that? Where did that come
not?
from?
All right,
Why
Kevin.
not?
Go ahead, follow him up.
Whew. Well, I'm gonna get a hard time, but I just think when I watched that game, I'm worried about Good Counsel's offense, and I know their defense has been lights out, but they have not seen weaponry like St. John's is bringing in the armament to Olney on Friday night, and I got St. John's 34, Good Counsel 13, fellas.
Armament.
You like that word?
I like that.
Is it a word?
All right,
It's a
and what
word.
about Gonzaga and Matha?
Gonzaga DeMatha is going to be a tough one for me. We're going to be down there, and I feel like Lee Corso putting on the wrong face mask or the wrong helmet on, but the way DeMatha runs the ball and the beef up front and the pounding that Caleb took last week, and I just, this is a week-by-week thing. This doesn't mean that Gonzaga is going to turn it around, but sorry to the men in purple. I think the DeMatha Stags win 24-17.
All right. T, what do you got?
So I'll start with the Friday night game. I think that St. John's is going to see a very, very good defense, and I think this defense is going to have some success against St. John's. Give them a little bit of a game, but in the end, it's going to be not enough, and I think that it's going to be 24-12.
The old 12 piece?
The old 12 piece.
Mm-hmm. All right.
For
He put a 12 piece
for
on
Friday night, and on Saturday, I think this is another one where we really don't know what's going to happen. But I've been saying consistently, DeMatha is a team that if they can get up early and get that running game going, they're going to be really hard to slow down. And I think they're eventually going to pull away. It's going to be a game where they dominate the time of possession and keep the ball away from Caleb Williams. And it's going to be 28-15.
DeMatha.
Yes. Who else would I take?
That's fair. That's fair. I'll start on Friday night as well. I think Good Counsel will score a defensive touchdown, and I think that Savion Wilkinson will get his for a touchdown. Yeah. They will score 14 points. I think St. John's will also score 14 points in the first half, but in the second half, I think that the running game and the savviness of Soljay will be the difference, and I'm going to say 31-14 with a strong second half by the Cadets on Friday night. And on Saturday, I gotta tell you guys something. There was a part of me that has been thinking to myself, "This is DeMatha's game. This is DeMatha's game." And then I thought I kind of rethought things. Gonzaga is a rope-a-dope WCAC team the last couple years. And I think they're going to be able to absorb a punch or two. I think they just absorbed a huge one last week. And I'm going to say that with our fellow class of 94 in the house strong for our very, very close friend Mike Lynn, who we lost recently, and it sucks. It sucks to the second. I think that the Purple Eagles, that student section, I think it's going to be a big-time play in the fourth quarter. I think it's going to be a close game, and Gonzaga is going to make a play at the end, and I think it's going to be on defense. I think someone's going to show up on defense to make a play for Gonzaga in the fourth quarter. That will be the difference in the game. 27-21. Gonzaga possibly losing 21-20, needing that play at the end. That's kind of the game I'm calling for.
Like how you hedged your bet there. That was nice.
Did.
Well,
so diplomatic.
Okay.
Veteran move.
So many defensive touchdowns.
It's a lot of defensive touchdowns.
As an offensive guy.
I do know this. It's the 25th reunion of the class of 94 weekend that weekend. So to all those guys we know, looking forward to it down there on I Street, man. It's going to be a fun.
Thanks to Joe Rada. Thanks to Coach Trivers. Thanks to everybody.
Hey, Joe Rada, I mean, you talk about a handshake agreement and a class act individual that stood by his word and let us do this rematch because you know what? He's just a great dude.
Yes.
I mean,
he is.
And, I'm proud to be his friend, and I appreciate that, Joe. It's just a class act, and pretty much everything he does, you can say the same thing about.
Awesome atmosphere. Looking forward to it, man. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be awesome, man. And I have no stress whatsoever, man. Just beat each other up and have fun. I get to talk about how good you all are at doing it.
Jeff Clay, I'll talk to you when the game's over. Maybe.
Push this button on your YouTube page. Smash it. Give us a subscription. It's free. You'll get an update, notification when we go live on Saturday. We very much appreciate you guys giving us some of your Tuesday night. We'll be back again next Tuesday, but you will see us on Saturday from I Street.
Real quick, want to give some love to the guys that are on the chat.
Oh, yeah.
AGH, Andrew Griffith Humphreys, a friend of First Amendment, comes on all our shows
He'll
from
be here.
Wales.
He'll be
From
here
Wales.
soon.
From Wales. He will be here this Saturday. He will be at the game hanging out with
Our
us.
esteemed guest.
Also, I want to thank
Fruit
you,
Cup.
Fruit Cup. Fruit Cup. Thank you for the update. The Heights Soccer 6-0 win over Paul VI. Anybody out there, if you're listening, you got some updates, you got some things you want us to talk about, we'll mention you on the show. Please get the word out. Join us on the chat. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
Just don't take any comments from Buttercup.
Yeah,
We
okay.
don't want that.
Cup, yes.
Fruit
Buttercup.
Cup, fine by me. But Buttercup,
Butternuts.
we're going to draw
Butternuts,
the
no
line.
good either.
Yeah.
Fruit Cup
He's
was
Matt, the
live.
real
He
deal
was in there.
seal.
It's going to be a great Saturday afternoon down on I Street, boys. Look forward to seeing you there.
He's Tim Strachan.
Appreciate it, everybody. Again, thanks to McNamara for hosting. It was great to see a lot of those people out there this weekend. Looking forward to this weekend. Stay grounded. Be rounded.
He's Kevin Ricka.
Seals got me so fired up, I'm about to run my head through the wall. I cannot wait for this weekend either. It is going to be an incredible atmosphere down there in the heart. And you're looking right at the Capitol
Downtown.
building, and you're looking at the best high school football in the area. And I can't wait. Until next week, all of you guys, be a good sport.
And on behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. This was the WCAC Spectacular. All right, we're still live.
Thank you guys for
Thanks,
checking
guys.
in.
Appreciate you guys.
Fruit Cup, thanks for coming on,
Fruit
man.
Cup.
You're like a Barry White disciple.
Nice.
Who's
Oh,
also
I
a
know.
who's
That's right.
also a Buddhist monk.
Yeah, baby. That's right.
Yeah, it's like the discipline of a monk.
That's right.